Chihiro Furuya is a first-year student at Shiyu High School, and he's obsessed with everything related to zombies. He collects all kinds of zombie-related items from DVDs and dolls to designs, video games, and more. What's even crazier is that he dreams of meeting a super cute zombie girl, and he even wants to fall in love with one. Chihiro shares this zombie girl obsession with his two close friends, Yasutaka and Emoji. Naturally, Yasutaka thinks Chihiro's wish is strange, but Chihiro doesn't care because it's been his dream for a long time. Yasutaka is curious about what exactly makes Chihiro so attracted to cute zombie girls. Chihiro simply replies that it brings joy to his heart. Moji suggests that maybe Chihiro feels sympathy for those who have died and come back to life. However, Yasutaka disagrees with Moji's reasoning. The truth is, even Chihiro doesn't really know what drives his obsession with zombie girls. The Furuya family has a long history of maintaining the Shiryu Temple. Chihiro lives with his family at the temple. His grandfather, Jaguru Furuya, seems a bit senile, while his father, Duwon Furuya, serves as the head priest at the temple. His younger sister, Mero Furuya, is a 12-year-old girl. Every day, Chihiro's father handles breakfast while Mero takes care of the other household chores. During mealtimes, Jaguru repeatedly tells Mero to stop putting Napa cabbage in the miso soup, and Mero always replies that it's just regular cabbage. That's just how Jaguru is, and the whole family is used to it because of his age. Another member of their family is Babu, a stray cat that used to roam around the temple until they adopted him. Chihiro's mother passed away when he was young, and he doesn't even remember her anymore. Even so, Chihiro feels their family is incredibly happy, and he's grateful that he's never felt lonely. One day, their family suffered a loss. Babu was hit by a car driven by their neighbor, and Chihiro witnessed it. The neighbor, an elderly man Chihiro had known since childhood, explained that Babu had suddenly appeared when his car was passing by, and he couldn't stop in time. Chihiro was heartbroken, unable to think or do anything. Duin said they couldn't bury animals at the temple because the followers would strongly oppose it, so he apologized to Chihiro and Mero for only being able to bury Babu behind their house. Mero asked her older brother if, as children of the temple, they should be able to control their emotions during times like this. Chihiro responded saying that wasn't true. Mero then approached her brother, and they hugged and cried together over Babu's grave. That night, Chihiro couldn't sleep. He was overwhelmed by thoughts of why death had to happen so suddenly, causing such deep sadness. He even began to think that no one should ever have to die. Suddenly, he had a wild idea. He looked for a book stored in his cabinet, one that he got last year while helping his relatives in the Tohoku region sort through old documents that were to be donated to the local archives. The book seemed like an ordinary notebook, and no one even knew when it had been written. The office considered it useless, but not Chihiro. Inside, it detailed a spell that could supposedly bring the dead back to life. It might have been nonsense, but Chihiro thought there was no harm in trying. He decided to resurrect Babu using the magic from the book. He dug up Babu's grave and placed the body in an empty ice cream container before taking it to an abandoned building. Chihiro figured no one would come there, allowing him to perform the ritual without interruption. He entered the building and went up to the upper floors. Chihiro loved zombies, so he would continue to cherish Babu even if he came back as a zombie. On the second day of preparing the magic potion, Chihiro noticed a girl approaching the well near the abandoned building. Not long after, she screamed into the old well. The next morning, Chihiro took ice blocks from the fridge and put them into a bucket when Mero came up to him, startling him. Mero asked what Chihiro was doing, but Chihiro said he wasn't doing anything. His younger sister didn't believe him, feeling like he was lying, especially with his suspicious behavior. Still, Chihiro ignored her and left with the ice blocks. He placed the ice blocks into a cooler that held Babu's body, neatly stored in his bedroom closet. Chihiro headed to school with Yasutaka and Moji. Yasutaka felt like Chihiro wasn't paying attention to his story, but Chihiro assured him that he was. Yasutaka didn't believe him and asked for Chihiro's opinion. Chihiro was confused about what opinion he was talking about, proving that he hadn't been listening at all. Yasutaka ended up repeating his story, talking about the girls at Sanka High School and their classmates. Sanka High was known for having the prettiest girls in the area, while Shiyu High School was an all-boys school and was boring in comparison. Yasutaka regretted that the students of Sanka High always took a different route to school. In fact, the buildings of Shiyu High and Sanka High were located across from each other, separated by a river. Yasutaka had purposely applied to Shiyu High because it was near Sanka High, hoping to meet and get to know one of the rich girls from Sanka. He also mentioned that a very wealthy girl had started at Sanka High this year. Yasutaka was thrilled when he pointed out which girl he meant. The girl with long black hair on the other side of the river was the daughter of Sanka High's principal. Her name was Sankarea. Yasutaka was completely captivated by Rei's beauty and said that because she came from such a high-class family, she was surely an innocent and pure girl. But Chihiro disagreed, saying that not everything was always as it seemed. This irritated Yasutaka, who felt like Chihiro was acting like a know-it-all. Later that day, Chihiro's cousin, Saju Ranko, came to his house to deliver some food. Dune greeted her and mentioned that Mero would be home late today, so he thanked Ranko for bringing the food. Ranko asked where Chihiro was. Dune said Chihiro was in his room, mentioning that since Babu's death, Chihiro always seemed tired and went straight to bed after school. Ranko went into Chihiro's room and woke him up, returning a zombie DVD she had borrowed from him earlier. Chihiro had completely forgotten that he had lent her the DVD. Ranko was surprised, especially since Chihiro had promised to come over to her house to retrieve it. Chihiro explained that he had been a bit busy, but Ranko wasn't convinced and started pulling his hair in frustration. She stopped when Chihiro suddenly asked if she knew Sankarea, a first-year student at Sanka High, since Ranko attended the same school. Ranko said she knew her, and Chihiro asked what kind of girl Rhea was. Ranko only knew Rhea as the principal's daughter and teased Chihiro, wondering if he liked her. She tugged on his hair again, and Chihiro, in pain, quickly denied liking Rhea, saying that Yasutaka was the one interested in her. Continuing to mess with him, Ranko was annoyed because she thought Chihiro had been upset about Babu's death, but it seemed like he was doing just fine. Chihiro, still in pain, pleaded with Ranko to stop. She threw him onto the bed, said goodbye, and reminded him to come to her house next week. Ranko borrowed another zombie DVD and left. Saju Ranko was Chihiro's cousin. Her parents ran a traditional Japanese restaurant, and she was a second-year student at Sanka High School. Even though she was only about half a year older than Chihiro, Ranko always acted like his big sister. On the second night of Chihiro's magic experiment, he began preparing the tools and ingredients needed to make the potion as described in the book. However, one of the pages was unreadable because it was stained. The page seemed to indicate that the necessary ingredient was some type of poisonous plant, but he couldn't figure out which one. Previously, Chihiro had tried using poisonous water hemlock leaves, but it didn't work. He was feeling pessimistic about his efforts, but decided to keep trying for a week. If there were no results by then, he would have no choice but to bury Babu again. Suddenly, he heard footsteps outside the building, so he went to check. It turned out to be Rhea, who was heading toward the well near the building. Once she reached it, Rhea screamed loudly into the old well, just like she had the night before, pouring out all her frustrations. Rhea cried out, wondering why she had to be born into the Sanka family. She just wanted freedom to come and go as she pleased with her friends. But because she was part of the Sanka family, she was never allowed to. Chihiro watched from the window above, sipping from a bottle of water. He was shocked when Rhea shouted that she wanted her father to stop taking naked pictures of her on her birthday to record her growth. Startled, Chihiro accidentally dropped his drink, which caught Rhea off guard. Chihiro tried to hide below the window, but Rhea had already seen him. They awkwardly met, and Chihiro felt really uncomfortable around Rhea. He tried to start a conversation, but suddenly, Rhea begged him to forget everything he had just seen and not tell anyone, saying she'd do anything he asked. Casually, Chihiro joked that he might spread what he had heard yesterday. Rhea was mortified to hear that Chihiro had actually been listening since the night before. She thought maybe it would be better if he hadn't said anything. Now she felt so embarrassed that dying seemed preferable to living. She wished she could die and be reborn as someone else. Chihiro was surprised that even someone from a rich family like Rhea could have such problems. He told her it was normal for someone to go to a quiet place and scream as loudly as they could when forced to do things they hated in life. Rhea then asked if Chihiro had come there to scream too. Chihiro explained everything, and Rhea was shocked to hear about the magic to bring someone back from the dead. She asked if that was even possible. Chihiro couldn't say for sure, but he thought maybe the magic could turn someone into a wandering zombie. He was only trying to help bring Babu back, but now he wasn't so sure. Chihiro really wanted to see Babu running around again like he used to. He even started to think he was just forcing his will onto Babu, who might not even want to come back. But Rhea encouraged him, saying she believed that maybe Babu did want to be with Chihiro again. Rhea even offered to help Chihiro. Chihiro asked her if she really wanted to get involved with something so strange. Rhea explained that her father was obsessed with cleanliness, so they weren't allowed to have any pets at home. She really wanted to show love to animals. Chihiro didn't mind, and he also remembered that Rhea said she'd do anything for him. He jokingly told Rhea she could become a zombie, since she wanted to die and be reborn as someone else. But of course, Chihiro was just kidding. Reia's frightened expression made him laugh. Just as he suspected, Reia was easily tricked. Chihiro then warned her to be careful around guys, saying that bad guys might trick her when she's not paying attention. Reia responded by saying she didn't have a boyfriend, so she'd be fine. Chihiro teased her, saying only innocent girls would be proud of something like that. Reia then asked if Chihiro had a girlfriend, to which he replied that he didn't. Reia pointed out that Chihiro had no right to tease her when he didn't have a girlfriend either. Chihiro told Reia that he wasn't into living girls, he was only interested in zombie girls. Of course, Reia was shocked by that. Chihiro wasn't joking about this. Ever since he was a kid, he had been searching for a zombie girl, though it was obviously hard to find one. Reia stood up and asked Chihiro if he was ready to keep his word if she ever became a zombie. Chihiro was confused, but Reia smiled and told him to think about it before saying goodbye and heading home. Chihiro felt frustrated because he felt like she had outsmarted him. Reia suggested they meet again at the same place tomorrow. Chihiro had never imagined something like this before, imagining Reia becoming a zombie. Reia and Chihiro met again the next day at the same spot. Reia was engrossed in watching a zombie movie on Chihiro's laptop, while Chihiro was busy preparing a magical potion for today's experiment. Reia seemed really interested in the zombie film and asked Chihiro why the zombies were tearing into their friends and eating them. Chihiro explained that this was simply how zombies behave, they attack and eat humans. Reia was surprised because it seemed like she was only just learning what zombies are. She also told Chihiro that she had never watched a zombie movie before. Chihiro intentionally brought a terrifying movie filled with gruesome scenes, hoping to scare Reia on her first watch. But instead, Reia became even more fascinated by the creepy zombie movie. Chihiro reminded Reia that she was supposed to help him make the resurrection potion. Feeling bad for getting too absorbed in the movie, Reia quickly apologized, closed the laptop, and began helping Chihiro gather the ingredients for the potion. She asked what poisonous plants they would be using today. It seemed like Chihiro was running out of ideas and was becoming a bit doubtful about successfully creating a resurrection potion, especially since parts of the instructions in the book were unreadable. Reia asked what would happen to Babu, their pet cat, in the end. Chihiro simply replied that he might have to bury him, especially since this was the 5th day of trying to create the resurrection potion. Chihiro teased Reia by asking if she would eat Babu, and of course, Reia didn't understand why Chihiro would even think that. Chihiro clarified that it was just a joke. He mentioned that he had already tried using all the poisonous plants in the area from morning glory, lily, water hemlock, to Chinese plum. Chihiro then wondered what plant they should try next. Suddenly, Reia suggested they go outside to find more poisonous plants. She hurriedly left, but as she walked, she tripped over a bowling ball, causing her skirt to flip up. Chihiro saw this, making Reia feel embarrassed, and she quickly left the building. Chihiro hadn't expected Reia to be such a bold person. Reia feels that her father's love for her has gone beyond the boundaries of what is normal for a family. When Reia was a toddler, the maids would play with dolls with her. One day, they asked her to grab a doll from them, but Reia, who wasn't yet good at walking, fell and started to cry. The maids comforted her, as most people would, but her father reacted differently. He was upset about the incident, and the next day, all the maids who had played with her were fired. As a child, she would often play ball with the maids in the yard. One day, while they were playing, a cute cat appeared. Naturally, her childlike instincts kicked in, and she went over to pet it. Her father, Sanka, watched the entire scene from behind a window. The next day, the cat was gone, and so was the maid who had been watching her. Reia was mostly left with her mother, Sankarea, who was distant and cold toward her. Every year on Reia's birthday, her father would take photos of her without any clothes on. As Reia grew older, she started to realize that what her father was doing was far from normal. Even Reia became a little suspicious of Danichiru's feelings toward Reia. It got to a point where Reia couldn't take it anymore. She often felt Danichiru's presence or the presence of one of his subordinates watching her. It was a gaze that followed her no matter where she went. At school, Reia made her first friend Nakadai, who is a friendly girl. She comes from a respected family, so Danichiru allowed Reia to be friends with her. Before this, Reia always thought that everyone hides their suffering behind a smile, but after befriending Nakadai, she started to realize that her thinking was wrong. It was just that she hadn't been lucky in life. Reia often visited Nakadai's house and saw the warmth and affection in Nakadai's family. For the first time, Reia shared the things she had been going through with Nakadai, and Nakadai was shocked to hear it. Nakadai thought it was really strange for Danichiru to take photos of his daughter without clothes on. She also suggested that Rhea ask Danakuru to stop doing that. However, Rhea was still too afraid to anger her father. Makadai also mentioned that she had fought their father before and that fighting with one's dad was a normal part of family life. But after that conversation, Rhea regretted sharing all her secrets with Makadai. Meanwhile, Chihiro had been waiting for Rhea inside the building for a while and started feeling worried about her. He was afraid Rhea might have gotten lost in the forest or even slipped and fallen into the river, although he wasn't sure if Rhea would do something that dangerous. He looked out the window and was shocked to see Rhea struggling to climb a steep hill. Chihiro rushed out to help her on a ride just as Rhea was about to slip. Fortunately, Chihiro grabbed her hand firmly, pulling her back and preventing her from falling. He even teased Rhea, calling her a lady who can't survive without a caretaker. Rhea got annoyed at that and claimed she could climb the hill by herself. Chihiro then jokingly asked if she wanted him to let go of her hand, which of course she didn't. They returned to the abandoned building and Chihiro asked why Rhea felt the need to climb the hill. Rhea simply replied that she saw the plant she was looking for growing near the grave at the top, and she thought it would be faster to get there by climbing. Chihiro called her a reckless rich girl, but Rhea didn't care. She said that even if she fell and died, Chihiro could just bring her back to life as a zombie. Chihiro was startled by this, especially since he hadn't even managed to revive Babu yet. He also pointed out that he had never said he would bring Rhea back to life if she died. Rhea made it clear, though, that she was begging Chihiro to revive her if that ever happened to her. Rhea finally found the courage to ask Danakuru to stop his actions. She refused to be photographed without clothes. Danakuru then asked why she was rejecting this, claiming it was a normal thing for parents to document their child's physical growth. Rhea shouted back, saying it was not normal and unlike other families. She wanted them to be a normal family. She wanted to live a normal life just like everyone else. Danakuru then asked if someone had said something to her, but Rhea denied it, though Danakuru kept pressing. Rhea grew angrier and told him that anyone would find what he was doing strange. Danakuru simply responded that Rhea didn't understand. The only thing that was truly real in this world was Danakuru's love for her. He then walked away, but Rhea was left feeling deeply unsettled. Sure enough, the next day a friend told Rhea that Nakadai was moving away, saying that something had happened to Nakadai's father. He had been forced to quit his job. Rhea knew Danakuru was behind this. Once again, he had interfered. Rhea ran to see Nakadai, relieved she could still catch her before she moved. Nakadai was going to a cat shelter because her new home wouldn't allow pets. Nakadai's family had changed and she was angry with Rhea for saying something to Danakuru. Nakadai felt that she had never interfered in Rhea's life, and now she regretted ever being friends with her. Nakadai left Rhea standing there, feeling devastated. Rhea became more convinced that Danakuru had taken everything from her. Danakuru explained to Rhea that happiness means something different to everyone. He believed that the purity of his love for her was something no one else could understand, and he told her that one day she would realize how deep his love was, deeper than anyone else's. He also warned Rhea that if she didn't understand, someone else would suffer. Danakuru insisted that Rhea didn't realize how much better her life was compared to others. Then Danakuru demanded that Rhea take off her clothes so he could take her picture for her birthday this time. Rhea couldn't stop him this time. She realized that if her happiness came at the cost of someone else's suffering, she would rather live in sadness. Rhea showed Chihiro the poisonous plant she had collected. It was a hydrangea. Chihiro asked why she had chosen a plant that grew all over town. Rhea explained that many people didn't realize how dangerous it was. It was a symbol of her family, and she had many in their garden. Even when she was little, her father had warned her never to put it in her mouth. Suddenly, Chihiro remembered that his forgetful grandfather used to eat hydrangea leaves all the time. Rhea was surprised and wondered if the plant's effects vary depending on the person. They decided to try it out. Chihiro crushed the hydrangea leaves into his potion mixture, and after adding all the ingredients, the potion was ready to test. Chihiro carefully took Babu's body out of the icebox and with care placed the mixture in Babu's mouth. Both Chihiro and Rhea were hopeful that this time the experiment would work, but after waiting for a while, there were still no signs of life from Babu. They concluded that once again the experiment had failed. Chihiro and Rhea began to pack up, getting ready to head home. Rhea asked what other poisonous plants they might try tomorrow, but Chihiro refused. He felt sorry for Babu, saying he couldn't keep forcing things for his own selfish reasons. He decided it was time to bury Babu, and Rhea agreed. Chihiro thanked Rhea for helping him, and Rhea nervously asked if they wouldn't meet again at this place, but quickly got embarrassed and said goodbye before heading off. Chihiro noticed that Rhea was walking with a slight limp. Rhea mentioned that she had twisted her ankle when she slipped earlier, but said she was fine and continued walking. But Chihiro, worried, ran up to her and lifted her onto his back, much to her surprise as she shouted in shock. He then placed her on the back of his bike and asked her to hold the icebox with Babu's body inside. As they rode, Rhea's mind wandered, wondering why she had been born into a family so different from others. She longed for a normal life, to laugh freely like everyone else. She wished she could be born again and find freedom. If that wasn't possible, then maybe it would be better to just die. Rhea asked Chihiro to stop the bike near a tunnel not far from her home. Chihiro, confused, asked if her house wasn't up the hill and offered to take her all the way to the front door. But Rhea refused, explaining that she never used the front entrance. She planned to sneak in through a secret door hidden in the bushes, and fortunately, her father hadn't grown suspicious yet. Chihiro wondered how terrifying Rhea's father must be. Before leaving, he reminded Rhea not to be late for Babu's funeral tomorrow, and she agreed. Rhea slipped through the hydrangea bushes and Chihiro continued on his way. Little did they know, Danikaru was watching them from afar through binoculars. When Rhea reached the back door of her house, Danikaru called out to her and immediately slapped her across the face. Ranko was soaking in Chihiro's bathtub when she suddenly heard the sound of Chihiro's bike stopping outside. She greeted him from the bathroom window, catching Chihiro off guard. Shocked, Chihiro asked why Ranko was in his bathroom. Ranko casually responded that she was just returning his DVD. Annoyed, Chihiro questioned why Ranko was using his family's bathtub like it was her own, but Ranko reminded him that since they were cousins, it wasn't a big deal. Ranko then started interrogating Chihiro, asking where he had been this late at night. Chihiro made up an excuse, saying he went to the store to buy ice cream and took a short break by the river. Ranko found his explanation odd, especially since Mero had told her that Chihiro had been going out every night since Babu died, always carrying that ice cream storage box with him. Chihiro continued to defend himself, claiming that he was just playing with a raft at the river. Curious, Ranko approached the ice cream box and demanded to know what was really inside. Panicking, Chihiro begged her not to open it. Teasing him, Ranko asked if Chihiro's zombie obsession was starting to get the better of him, suggesting he might be doing something inappropriate with Babu's body. Ignoring Chihiro's pleas, Ranko opened the lid of the box and suddenly, something jumped out. Chihiro was overjoyed. This meant his magic had worked and Babu was alive again. The event happened so quickly that Ranko didn't get a good look at what had come out of the box. Meanwhile, Rhea was feeling heartbroken because she wouldn't be able to see Chihiro for Babu's funeral tomorrow. Danichiro had forbidden her from leaving the house, not even for school. Secretly, Rhea had taken a small portion of the magic potion she and Chihiro had made together. Even though it probably wouldn't bring her back to life, it still contained poison. Desperate, she drank the potion, hoping it would kill her. Rhea had lost all hope in her life, feeling that it would be better to die than to continue living in such misery.